On Wednesday, the Revolutionary Guard's own spokesman said the quiet part into a microphone. Iran and Oman, he announced, have agreed on each country's share of the Strait of Hormuz and each country's share of its revenues. Revenues. The government that has spent 6 months swearing the strait stays closed until the war ends just published the business plan for it. And the oil market heard exactly what that was. Crude fell for a third straight day, more than $2 a barrel, to a 2-week low. So tonight, one question, and the whole 6-month war now hangs on it. If the strait is a weapon, why is its owner writing a price list? Here is the number that explains everything. Before the war, about 130 ships a day moved through the Strait of Hormuz, carrying a fifth of the world's oil and gas. On Wednesday, by tanker tracking, there were 14 vessels in the whole strait. The American president told a radio interviewer the same day that the strait is, in his words, a very functioning strait, that a lot of oil is pouring out. Hold his sentence against the count. 14 ships is not a functioning strait. It is a closed shop with the lights left on, and both owners now describe it however their story requires. But watch what Tehran is actually doing, not saying, because the doing is new. The deal with Oman fixes shares of the water and shares of the money. In the same week, Qatar's prime minister flew to Tehran and, by Doha's own account, discussed a second temporary corridor through the strait, meeting the foreign minister, the parliament speaker, and the president in a single visit. A principle does not need 2 sales channels. A product does. The closure that began as an act of war is being converted, in public, into a franchise. And here's where this channel's scoreboard comes in, because we keep ours in public. Last episode, our take was one sentence. The regime's only way to restore the strait's value is to make the detours as dangerous as the gate. Within days, Tehran published a blacklist of 45 ships aimed at the ship-to-ship transfers that Persian Gulf producers have been using to move crude around the blockade. Reporting says some companies are already dropping the listed vessels. Read what a blacklist is. It is not a missile, but it is aimed at exactly the target we named, the competition. The toll booth is now defending its queue. Washington's half of the auction is quieter and more revealing. Operation Economic Outcast, the sanctions campaign we covered last week, once again spared the one target with teeth, Chinese banks. And this week, the American president got as far as hinting at bank bans. Beijing answered within a day. Dialogue is the only way out. Meanwhile, independent reporting says Pentagon officials are privately questioning American clout, with weapons stockpiles thinning and allies drifting. The president who promised a short war is 6 months in, telling interviewers he is in no hurry, while Iran's foreign minister posts that diplomacy is not impossible once Washington accepts that pressure does not work. 2 capitals, both out of good options, both selling patience to their own publics as strategy. Here is the historical twin, and it is exact on mechanism. In 1973, the Arab oil embargo was the most feared economic weapon on Earth. By March of 1974, it was over, and there was no surrender ceremony and no treaty. It ended because the producers realized the embargo was permanently handing their market to others, so the weapon quietly became a price list, and the price list became ordinary trade. That is the arc you are watching in the strait. 6 months compressed into 1 week. A closure decaying into a toll. And the dangerous part of that arc is the enforcement, because a toll only holds if somebody punishes the ships that refuse to pay. And Tehran has just written down 45 names. Now ask, who in Tehran can actually sign the rate card? Because this week, that question stopped being rhetorical. Reuters reported that Mujtaba Khamenei runs Iran from behind the scenes, months into his rule, still governing out of sight, while state media releases undated archive footage of him. His portrait hangs in a market stall in Bandar Abbas, the port city this whole war is strangling. A state that is auctioning its one asset cannot produce the auctioneer. We said weeks ago that a fiction cannot sign, and the fiction is now selling. And while the state prices the water, the people who live behind it are priced in blood and petrol. This week, an Iranian court sentenced a 27-year-old mechanic to death on charges including waging war against God, by a rights group's reporting. On the Pakistani border, oil from this blockaded country is being smuggled out on motorbikes, some ridden, by independent reporting, by boys as young as 15, across 900 kilometers of desert frontier. That is the real economy of the 6-month war. A state selling shares of a waterway it cannot open, while children carry its oil out in cans. The guards spent the week warning against new protests at home. The seller knows exactly who is standing outside the shop. That is the reporting. Here is our take. The auction is not peace. It is the war changing currency. A blacklist gets enforced or it gets ignored, and the Islamic Republic cannot afford to be ignored. So the first listed ship that loads anyway is where the next escalation lives. Washington, meanwhile, cannot bless a toll corridor without admitting the 6-month campaign bought a discount at somebody else's toll booth, which is why the president now insists the strait is already open. Our call stands as it has all month. No permanent reopening signed by a named Iranian authority, no American blessing on Iran's corridor, and traffic nowhere near the old 130 a day. What would change our mind is simple: a Washington-endorsed toll corridor in operation. And this board does not show one. Bottom line, this war continues, and it has entered its most honest phase, because both sides have stopped pretending the strait is a principle and started arguing about the price. Before you go, the mechanic waiting on a death sentence and the 15-year-old hauling fuel across the border are the same story as the revenue deal. One state monetizing a war its own people pay for. So watch 3 things with us. The first enforcement against a blacklisted ship, the terms of the Qatar corridor, and the daily transit count. Because when that count climbs past 65, somebody will have paid the toll, and we will tell you who. If this breakdown helped you see the week clearly, hit like. It is free, and it tells us to keep drawing the board. And subscribe, because the board moves every day, so you catch the pieces before they move.